Hello and welcome to ABC of Storytelling 2.0. My name is Rituparna Ghosh and every week I share tips, tricks, techniques and secrets that help you tell better stories and make the best use of storytelling. Let me begin by saying a big round of thank you to all those who have started following ABC of Storytelling 2.0, the ones who've engaged with our content, the ones who've shared it on their social media, and the ones who have joined our Telegram community. There's a lot of adventure coming up, so stay tuned. This week I have 4 B's for you, so let's get started. The first B that I have for you is my favorite. It's bait. The bait is a specific trick where you drop a story like a small hint. It's not a really complete story by itself, but rather the whiff of a story or the hint of a story, that there is something more than what you have just mentioned. When you use a story as a bait, you pick up a specific element from it, like a name, a place, or a simple plot. For example, there have been workshops and events where I have talked about how I avoided the spotlight. For 20 years of my life, when I came to college from a small town and I came to Delhi, I avoided the spotlight, and that continued in my career as a television journalist. I did not want to stand in front of the camera. Now, I don't go into the other details of why I avoided the spotlight or how did I come to gain my space or hold my spot under the spotlight, because that's not the story that I want to tell. But I want my listener to lean in and listen, to try and find clues in my narrative, in what I'm trying to do and the way I'm trying to interact with them. I want them to find the clues and put the story together in their head, or even come to me at the end of my session and ask for that story. So use a story as a bait, as a little hook that you put in your talk, in your presentation, where you don't really tell a story but only touch a small point of it, just enough to get your listener to lean in and listen with intent. The next B that I have for you is belief. You know, the one thing that irked me the most when I started off as a storyteller, it was the whole connotation of a storyteller being somebody who's a fabricator of truth. As if to tell a story is to craft stories in a way that you cover up for all the lies. Maybe that had something to do with the fact that I was a television journalist before this. Just kidding. You know the one about truth and story? If you haven't heard that story, go and look for it in my podcast. It's a great story to just talk about how every story is really truth covered up in a narrative, in a story that makes the truth acceptable for the listeners. But that's very important. Every story should instill faith and belief in you. Every story that you tell about yourself, your brand, your organization, your product, your services, if you are not truthful, then it will come through in your story. Now, how do you do that? My tip to you would be not to really work very hard to make every story believable. Instead, just tell the story simply, like it happened, like the way it meant for you or what it meant for you. Convey that. Mention the facts, but don't imagine anything which did not happen. Don't gloss over and paint a prettier than thou picture than it really was. Accept your limitations, accept your faults. Talk about your wins, but don't gloat over them. To tell a story and to instill faith or belief from your listener in you cannot be done with one story. It has to be done story after story after story for all the stories that you will tell. But it always begins with one place and begins at one place. That is the truth in a story. If you hold on to the truth, your listener will believe in you. And that takes me to the next B, bridge. I strongly advocate the use of storytelling to build bridges. A story is really a bridge between the teller and the listener. And when they build a bridge together, it should be at a space where the listener feels comfortable and safe to don the role of the storyteller when the time comes. If you're a manager or a leader who is using stories to build bridges with your team, with your organization, with your management, consider the fact, are you creating a safe space for your stakeholder, for your listener to come and share stories with you? Are they using the bridge to communicate back with you? Stories and storytelling create safe spaces, or they should create safe spaces for the listener and the storyteller to interact and to engage in a space where they are free from judgment and from any kind of a threat. A storytelling culture takes years to form, but it's a very important tool, or it's a very important thought if you are trying to build bridges with your employees, with your management, with your external stakeholders, customers, partners, vendors, or whosoever who's important to your business. Consider the fact, are you building strong bridges where you share information with each other, not just the stories that you want to tell them, but also your partners, your employees, your stakeholders. Are they sharing stories back with you that are helping you create a better product or offer a better service? Creating a storytelling culture or a bridge of stories means that you have to create a bridge which is long lasting, where there are enough stories flowing both ways, and they together help create a storytelling culture within your organization. The last B of the week, yes, I have one more. It is bag. At Your Story Bag, we believe that each one of us has a bag full of stories. Stories that we have lived and experienced, stories that we've been part of even for a fraction of a second or a minute or a part of your life, stories that you have encountered or discovered, stories that have happened to you, stories that you have triggered, or stories where you've just been a bystander. There are so many stories in your life around you that you may have also read, you may have watched, you may have heard. These are the stories that have shaped you, or they've impacted you in ways in which even you perhaps don't know. The art of storytelling is to tell the right story at the right time to the right person and for the right purpose. But before you have the right kind of story, you need to fill your bag with all kinds of stories that could be useful for you. So invest in gathering stories that are useful for you and for your work. Invest in stories that help build the narrative about who you are and the work that you do. To find the right kind of stories, you really need to sit down and ponder over your life, ponder over your experiences, ponder over all the struggles that you encounter in your day-to-day work, and see if there is a story that can counter that thought, or that can solve that problem or dilemma. To tell stories, you really need to catalog all your stories, and that's why all your bag is important. You need to catalog your stories in your bag so that you can pick out the right story at the right time. How do you create a catalog for your stories? Well, at Your Story Bag, we can help you, and I will be very happy to share my template with you. All you have to do is to share this content on your social media. Remember to tag Your Story Bag. Send us a screenshot. If we've forgotten, join our Telegram group, and I will send that template to you right away. That's all I have time for you this week. Join our Telegram group. You can engage with other storytellers who are navigating the world of ABC all through this year with me. Stay tuned to ABC of Storytelling 2.0, as next week I will share with you some more tips and prompts to help you practice your B's. Until next week, happy storytelling.